Hey everybody, this is Derrick and
Brian.
welcome back to the third episode in our series, A Glass Half Full. In this episode, we're going to be talking about our 9802 Shiraz and our Seyval Blanc. And the topic of this episode is going to be, isn't wine just for snobby people? And we're also going to talk about Generation Y and the growing popularity of wine with that generation. So without further ado, let's taste some wine. So starting with our 9802 Shiraz, you get a little taste here. So this Shiraz we imported the juice from Australia, and so we made this. Cheers, brother.
I didn't mean to cut off what you're saying.
No. We made this wine from this imported juice, and we aged it in Hungarian oak. So Shiraz, also known as Syrah, depending on where you're at. In Australia, it's commonly known as Shiraz, and it's one of the largest selling dry red wines across the world, and it's a really popular dry red wine.
The way you looked at me after you finished, you're like,
Was that like a lovingly there?
yeah. That was hilarious. You did good though. We'll just cut this part.
No, maybe we won't.
Maybe not. So I'm biased. I'm such a dry red person, and this Shiraz is definitely my favorite. It is so smooth. It's up there with the perfect wines in my opinion. It's my favorite wine. Not just, I don't know if I told you this, Derek, but it's not just my favorite wine here. If I had a choice of wine to go to, it's the Shiraz.
I appreciate that. I really do.
I'm sure you, I'm sure you do.
No.
This is not one that I would start somebody out with. Like, it's more of somebody who's been drinking wines for a while, or who thinks that they like the drier stuff, or somebody who's bold, as I would say. But you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't start somebody out because they would go, oh, wait a second, I don't know if I like wine. Speaking of which, I think wine it's one of those things that people try and they base their opinion on that wine that they had. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Everybody goes back to the one experience that they had with a wine where they fell in love with wine, and so they base everything off of that one wine. Yeah. I have that wine, you know.
For sure.
And that wine happens to be a Hungarian wine. Which is why we decided to age this in Hungarian oak. We wanted to kind of get that kind of flavor profile from it. But yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. This Shiraz is the only wine that Desiree and I made together. So Desiree and I made this wine with my help, but it is the only one that we have produced commercially. And it is now my favorite wine out of everything that we produce. And I've a little bit of my heart breaks when I say that, because I love everything that we produce, but this has turned into my go-to. Yeah.
That is really awesome. I think your heart should grow with that. That's really cool. It's the one that you guys did together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think an important message on this wine, people, is these are not like relationships, okay? Don't base the next one off of the first one.
Wow.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, absolutely. Each wine, I think, each wine in its own essence has its own characteristics, has its own nuances and things that you can appreciate about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And listen, I'm going to say this with some fury. Try dry wine.
That was some fury.
You see that? You see how furious that was? I'm serious, man. We have a dry white, we have a dry red. That is the number one thing I hear people say, like, oh, it's just so, it makes my mouth. Some people, let me ask you this. I might be deviating a little bit.
deviate away.
I think when people try wine and then a person who knows wine culture says that's dry, what does that mean?
I get that question so often. What is a dry wine?
What does it mean?
What does that mean?
Oh, that's dry. How can it be dry? It's wet.
A lot of people think that if your mouth puckers, it's dry.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily the case. So by definition, a dry wine just means that it has no residual sugar, which means the yeast, when added to the juice, did its job to full completion and fermented every bit of sugar it could have out of that wine and just left its two byproducts in the alcohol process. During fermentation, a little bit of knowledge for you, what yeast does is it gobbles up all the sugars, and it's the byproduct of that is carbon dioxide and alcohol. So if it completes fermentation, there is 0% residual sugar in that wine, and it releases carbon dioxide, which is not necessarily a pleasant smell during the fermentation process and that sort of thing, but that leaves the wine, and you are left with the fantastic product that's left behind and the alcohol added to it through the process. And there's lots of things that the winemaker can do throughout the process to change the mouthfeel or change the flavor of the wine slightly and that sort of thing. And that's dry wine.
That plays right into what I was saying. I love how, again, Derrick always has the chemic. Is that a word? Chemic. You have the chemic standpoint over you. My wife, she's so funny. The way that she says this is if she has a dry wine, it's, this makes my mouth feel like all the moisture was just sucked right out of it. So I think that's the way people think about it, or at least... maybe that's the perception, but it's cool to know the reason. It's the sugar, and if you really think about it, sweets in any form, whether it's liquid or cake or whatever, they're mouth-watering. You have some, you want more. Yeah, it kind of keeps I guess there's something involved where it makes you salivate more. Yeah, that's why people tend to salivate around Derrick and I's, because we're really.
Oh man!
Woo!
But I think that directly correlates to what you're talking about. It directly correlates to the tannins in the wine and that mouthfeel and that sort of thing. So what we do with the majority of our dry reds and our dry white wines is after the primary and secondary fermentation process, we introduce a malolactic bacteria to the wine on purpose, and that's commonly done in the industry. And what that does is that malolactic bacteria converts that harsh malic acid, which you find in apple juice and apples, and it converts that acid into a lactic acid, which we commonly find in milk, for example, hence the lactose. It's that smoother kind of acid, not that the wines taste like milk. It's just that it's that type of acid that slips off the tongue.
That makes so much sense.
And it doesn't draw everything in and makes that harsh, acidic, mouth puckering feel, which a lot of people are turned off by. Which we'll get into later on in this episode with the younger generation. But so that's our Shiraz, and it's a fun wine. And a quick story on that, we named this wine 9802 because my wife heritage, her father was born in Budapest, Hungary, and her mother was born in Sydney, Australia. And so it's 9,802 miles between Budapest and Sydney.
Clever.
So it has all of her heritage into it, and she helped me produce this wine, and so she has every bit of herself in this. We've traveled to Hungary. We love Budapest. It's such a beautiful city, such a beautiful country, Hungary. If you ever get a chance to travel there, it's great. But this is a fun dry red wine.
Oh, it's so great. Yeah, try the Shiraz. As simple as that. On to the Seyval. This is the Seyval Blanc, aged in tequila barrels for 1 month. Also, like the red, this is a dry white. I love the dries. This is a good bottle here. I'll let you. You know what? Go ahead. Watch that hole there. These holes on this table
Yeah,
are not loyal
We got.
at all.
So the Seyval Blanc is a very similar to a Sauvignon Blanc. If you've heard of Sauvignon Blanc, it is a hybrid of Sauvignon Blanc. So this wine we decided to age in tequila barrels that we imported from Mexico, and we used a very popular, not to be named brand of tequila to age these in, and that lends just the slightest bit of sweetness and spice from the barrels. Yeah, this was our fastest selling wine last year.
This is ridiculous.
We decided to do another batch of it this year and bottle it. So this is new to our lineup, but we did have it last year. This is the new batch.
This is so good. This is like, and guys, this is hard for me, and here's why it's hard. The Shiraz is my favorite wine. That's my favorite wine. I've had the Shiraz many times. This is the first time I've had the Seyval. It is so good. I mean, it is so smooth. It tastes perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't have that harsh acidity when you drink a dry wine. It's not that. It's not that mouth puckering. Suck the moisture out of your mouth. It's really kind of like you said. It's really smooth. It slips off the tongue. Mm-hmm. But you get that.
Wow.
Even though there's zero sugar in this, you get that slight bit of sweetness from the tequila barrel.
Yeah.
And that. It doesn't taste like tequila. It doesn't have the hint of taste of tequila, but it does have that hint of spice and sweetness from the barrel.
Yeah, and what I love so much about it is there are times when I allot a little sugar to my diet, and there are times when I don't want any, and I can enjoy both of these and not have any extra sugar.
It's not a cheat, right?
It's not a cheat, and that's so awesome because sometimes you need a unwind without any cheat. And so that's what I would label these. Like not only are these really good wines, but also it's a unwind without any cheat. So that's powerful to me.
Yeah,
kind of like myself.
Powerful.
I'm just kidding. Whatever. But seriously, man, I'm so impressed by this.
He's buttering me up right now.
I'm buttering him up.
Yeah.
For no good reason. What's our topic this week?
So this week we're talking about, isn't wine just for snobs? And
I'm sorry, what'd you say? Cheers.
Oh,
I'm so sorry, sir.
Cheerio.
Isn't wine just for snobs?
So on that topic, what's your pleasure?
Oh, of the two?
Yeah.
I've got, again, I'll just be flat out honest. This is my favorite wine. This is my second favorite wine now.
All right.
I will have the Seyval.
Okay.
Derrick, would you do me the honors? I like you. You pour so well. You're so.
I will say I'm a pretty good pourer.
I'll have a glass.
And since we're glass half full, we'll have a glass half full. I'll have the same, just because.
Thank you.
When in Rome.
When in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Are you Roman?
7/8 and 5/15. I know. But that's what people do. They get to talk and they're like, "Yeah, I'm 1/8 and 9/14 and 1/5." Okeechobee.
Wow. Predominantly in our industry, boomers and Generation X make up the large majority of who purchases wine, and who comes into the tasting room, who's interested in wine and that sort of thing. But what we've seen a trend of in the last, 8 to 10 years, especially, is Generation Y, which is that 1981 born in day to 1996 approximately. Those people who are 40 to 24 years old, 25 years old. Those that group, that generation has really forced a boom on our industry, and that's it's extremely important to recognize and important to discuss on why is that this younger generation has embraced wine. So I mean, for the longest time, wine was seen as the thing to have if you were rich and uppity or snobby.
It's not just for snobby people. It is. This beverage is really for everybody, really and truly for everybody. And I hope that younger people do get into it, because it's something that, again, it's something that like you appreciate. It's raw. You make something of this. It's something that you can start with and then end with and be really proud of with your work that you put into it. So
Yeah.
hey,
No, you're absolutely right. And what we've seen is, so the majority of the boomers or Generation X are interested in the wine they read about, or the wine they saw a review about. And the difference between that and what Generation Y is doing is Generation Y is very interested in Instagram. They're very interested in the seeing the product and hearing about the product. So most of our younger generation that we get into the tasting room have heard about our business or our product from their friends. Mm-hmm. And the reason they've heard about that is through Instagram, which is generally seen as the Generation Y social media platform. Facebook definitely got our foot in the door as a business and got people interested in our product and that sort of thing. But it is also generally seen as the older people's social media platform. But yeah, I mean, the majority of the younger crowd that comes into the tasting room has either heard from us or heard of us mm-hmm. from their friends, okay, or from their friends' social media accounts. So that has been the majority of the growth of our industry, are those businesses who are willing to get outside of their comfort zone and reach out into those Generation Y social media platforms and, project what they're doing, what they're all about, their quality, their mm-hmm. product, and that sort of thing, because Generation Y does absolutely seem to be interested in the quality,
for sure,
and the value that they're getting out of that. They do want good quality wine at a value, much like their Boomer or Generation X generation does. So we have absolutely seen that, and it seems like the Generation Y population has some expendable resources at their hand where they can come and enjoy something like wine, whereas before the cheap beer or beer in general was the go-to for that generation.
Yeah, I love this topic because it makes you think a little bit, and I think that's why the Generation Y may be more interested. They have more time to think, more resources to choose what to think from. It's kind of what you're saying. The research and whatnot is there. And I feel like with older generations who we value and love so much, there wasn't so much questioning. It was just like, oh, this is what's popular, or we should do this because maybe that's what everybody else is doing. But we have some trendsetters on the market now. And that's what people aren't as I don't want to say afraid, because everybody's not fearful to try new wines, at least, but we have people who are willing to explore. Let me put it that way. A more exploratory generation.
And that's what we've seen also with Absolutely. Generation Y, is that they're willing to get in there and try something new, try something out of their comfort zone, mm-hmm. where Generation X or boomers before that were not necessarily so comfortable getting out of that zone and trying something new. So these newer generations are finding that wine can be enjoyable, and not just for special occasions like it used to be known for, but for regular occasions, and that it can be affordable for those regular occasions. And there are health benefits associated with wine. And I think Generation Y definitely wants and seeks out those health benefits of wine. You know,
I like it.
Yeah, lower carb, higher in antioxidants,
Less
and that
sugar,
sort of thing.
yeah.
Less sugar, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. We're hoping you all enjoy this. We sure are. And we'll see you for episode 4. Until then,
cheers. Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Derrick and Brian with our third. Crap. I'll let you introduce yourself.
All right. You explained it all and you looked at me and you're like, Do you want to? You want to kiss right now, bro? Like, that's what I thought.
I'm so into you.
I'm so into you right now. So into you.
That's not going in the blooper reel.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. But I'm so willing to, like, I can come out and help edit if we need to. Like,
I appreciate that, dude.
2 eyes is better than 1.
2 eyes are always better than 1.
I'll come out.
Yeah, because I'm always like with one
Like
eye.
this, like this.
Yeah, I wish I had another eye.
What do you call a fish with no eye?
I don't know.
A fish. You get it?
I get it.
On to the table.
All right. So next we're going to try our Seyval Blanc. This is a wine that is produced. Holy crap! I'm gonna cut that for sure.
Yeah. I'm 21 tomorrow.
I'm so in trouble.
You know. Hang on, take a second. Hang on. All right.
Yeah, you had to move in.
I know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just busy doing things. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 3.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. That's what I did at the very beginning, dude. Moving back. I'm sorry. I'm tripping.
No.
Yeah, I think you should close this out.
No.
You're a good closer.
I really think you should.
You are a better closer out of the me.
You're the best closer I've ever known.
There's 2 closers who are good at this.
There's me and there's the best.
You're both of them.
No, and you are all 3 of them.
I don't think I can, dude.
It was going good. It was going good.
It wasn't.
Yes, it was. It totally was.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, thanks for joining. See?
You got it.
They could not say baked on a buttery, flaky crust. My favorite part of it is when the wife, she's giving him, his name's Jack. She's like, Jack! She's giving him shit the whole time. She's saying, like, baked on a buttery, flaky crust. And then they let her do it. And she says, baked on a buttery, crispy flake. Like, okay. Anyway, all right, you ready? Guys, thank you so much for cut. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 3. We're looking forward to episode 4. What's so funny, Derrick?
I have no idea.
We love you guys. We appreciate you. Until next time.
Cheers.
Baked on a buttery flavored crust. Baked on a buttery crispy flake.
Yeah. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, brother. That was horrible.
That was kind of weak.
That was bad.
Cheers. Of a glass half full. We appreciate all of you, and we hope you tune in for our next series that's going to come in next week. That sounds stupid. Come in
next week.
What's gonna do next week? It's gonna
come at you live.
And this episode was maybe a little more deep than others. Next week, no, it wasn't. This was actually a pretty light episode.
We had to redo that. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 3. I didn't know when you laughed, it sounded like you were snoring. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 3. That was a snort laugh.